On this episode of the Young Pioneer Podcast, we're coming to you live from the Young Pioneer Tours Manila studio with our good friend Marko Peck, Managing Director of Peck and Nascimbeng Global, one of the world's leading experts on citizenship by investment, second passports, and global mobility. We'll be talking about passport diversification, geopolitical risk, and why holding only one passport might be the biggest travel risk you can take. I'm Justin Martell, and this is the Young Pioneer Podcast.
저선주왕 방송입니다.
Hello and welcome back to the Young Pioneer Tours Podcast. I'm Justin Martell, coming to you from our Manila studio here in the Philippines. Today is a special episode because we're joined in person by a longtime friend of Young Pioneer Tours, Marko Peck. Marko is the Managing Director of Peck and Nascimbeng Global, a Zurich-based advisory firm that helps clients secure citizenship and residency through investment, descent, and strategic planning. Marko is one of the world's foremost experts in travel document technology, passport security, and global citizenship. He has advised multiple governments, holds certifications from the Investment Migration Council and IATA, and has personally visited more than 140 countries, many of them with us here at Young Pioneer Tours. And also joining us in the studio today is my colleague, Rowan Beard.
Hello, everyone.
Yes, or Rowan Weird, as the North Koreans. Yeah, as the North Koreans dubbed you. Back on the show, because I think you were on the last episode.
I was.
But now in person.
Back to back.
Yeah, we were talking remote at that time.
There we go.
So, anyway, I'm sorry, Marko, welcome to Manila.
Thank you.
All right. And it's great to finally have you in the studio after traveling together to some pretty interesting places around the world. I think the last time I saw you, we were in Juba, right?
We were, in South Sudan.
Yeah. And how about you two? You and
last time Mark and I, we met up, we were in Abu Dhabi, boring. But we've met in a couple of interesting places. South Sudan. Eritrea. Is that it? No, Angola.
Yeah. And Sao Tome.
And Sao Tome. But we first met in Angola.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did. It was love at first sight.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's, speaking of love at first sight, let's jump right into it. So you've said that holding only one citizenship is kind of like investing your entire life savings in one company. So can you explain what you mean by that?
Sure. Yeah, I would say it's actually even more risky than investing your life savings in one company because you can always sell your shares in one company, but it's not very quick or easy to, in a crisis, change your citizenship. Or let's say if your one and only country of citizenship creates very onerous rules like, let's say, Australia did during COVID that prevented people from leaving Australia.
That sucked.
There are all kinds of changes that can happen very quickly. So the best insurance against the unpredictable nature of any country, any one country, is having multiple citizenships.
All right. Going back to your background and how you got into all this, you're Finnish, you live in Zurich, and you've traveled to 140 countries. So how did you become first interested in global mobility, passports, citizenship?
So I have what's called a third culture background. So I grew up in the United States, but I spent a plethora of time in Finland as well. And I've lived in several countries throughout my life. And because of this, I had a natural sort of feeling that I don't really belong to any one country. I've sort of always felt that I came from the world. And because of this, I felt very free to live different places and to explore the world. And that led me to embrace this idea of mobility and eventually also helping other people to achieve the kind of mobility that I've experienced in my own life.
And so how did you start seeing passports differently when you started traveling?
Well, I saw how if you have only one citizenship, you are at the whim of the politics of the country that you're a citizen of. If you have multiple citizenships, you really don't need to be concerned about that. Ideally, if you have multiple citizenships from different parts of the world, different blocks, very different places. So, for example, when I was growing up, I had Finnish and American citizenship. I renounced my American citizenship many years ago. I saw how different parts of the world behave very differently and are perceived very differently around the world. If you're a European, you're maybe perceived much more positively across the world than an American these days. But if you're an African, well, no one really has any opinion about you at all in Singapore or in Hong Kong or in China, for example. So different geopolitical perceptions.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, most people see their passport as a travel document, but it determines, as you're getting at, determines where you can live, where you can go. Now, we both have multiple citizenships, but I did not renounce my U.S. citizenship. But that is because I wouldn't want to just have my second citizenship as my only citizenship, that being St. Kitts and Nevis. I could talk about it because it was all over CNN with respect to our North Korea travels last year. But can I ask why you decided to renounce your U.S. citizenship, or did it just have to do with the way Americans are perceived globally?
Well, it had to do with compliance. As you know, if you have opened a bank account anywhere on earth in the last 15 years, every bank will ask you, are you an American citizen? And if you answer yes to that question, in many countries you might like to live in, you will not be allowed to open that bank account, or you will at the very least be very limited in what kinds of banking products you're allowed to use. So in my case, it was that I lived in Finland at the time, and I was ineligible for a mortgage, ineligible for a credit card, ineligible for a brokerage account. I basically was financially disabled because I had American citizenship, and that's the case in much of Europe these days, even more so in Switzerland, where I live now. So that was the thing that made me renounce the American citizenship, was simply being able to have access to basic financial services. But it shows how citizenship and the actions of a country far, far away that in my case, I had no connection to anymore, can really dictate your freedom abroad. In my case, I had no influence on what the U.S. was doing, which was creating this FATCA legislation that affected the entire world. I had no control over that, obviously, but it was certainly affecting my life and the choices I had in the place I was living. So that's just an example of how, I was free to renounce that citizenship because I had others, and that I think is very important.
Yeah, and what kind of, just because we're talking about it, what kind of advice would you have? Because we've had, with some of the Trump travel ban, and then there's been some reciprocal restrictions that have come out since then. What kind of advice would you give to Americans that are considering second citizenship just for freedom of movement purposes? But, what should they also keep in mind? Because you're talking about, opening up a second bank account and having to declare that bank account, things of that nature.
Sure. Yeah. So acquiring a second citizenship, of course, you get a passport and you can travel with that, but it's much more. You really, these days, should think in terms of blocks. There are many different blocks around the world. These are groups of countries that have some kind of agreement with each other that they facilitate free movement between the member countries, or at least offer some expedited residency or naturalization options for fellow bloc citizens. So, for example, a bloc that's 430 million people that hardly anyone in the West knows about is ECOWAS, which is 12 countries in West Africa. So there's a country in that bloc, Sierra Leone, that offers citizenship by investment. And if you're a citizen of Sierra Leone, you can travel and even live in, if you would like, in any of the 12 member countries. That's quite powerful, not just now, but of course it's citizenship, so you could pass it on to your kids. And in 50 years, maybe Nigeria looks, quite different than it does today, for example. We don't know, but there's a tremendous amount of growth in the global south. And I really look at it from the perspective of the value of the bloc, not just the value of one country. In a similar way, São Tomé and Príncipe is a member of the CPLP, which is the Association of Portuguese-speaking countries. So if you're a citizen of one, be it São Tomé or Brazil or Portugal, you have access to take up residency in one of the other member countries pretty quickly and easily, without any investment or other special conditions. You just basically apply and you show that you don't have a criminal record and you get a residence permit. And in some member states, like in Brazil, a CPLP member country, it can naturalize quickly. So in Brazil, if you have PR for a year, you can naturalize if you're a CPLP citizen. So it can act as a bridge to even acquire yet another citizenship.
Out of curiosity, is Mozambique and East Timor included in that?
They are members of the CPLP, yeah.
Cape Verde as well.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, and Cape
Very cool.
Verde, yeah.
Very helpful, yeah.
And how common would you say it is for people to hold multiple citizenship? Is it more common now than it was in the past?
It's definitely more common now, as there are more and more people like me born to parents from different places. But I think it will become increasingly more common in the future, both because of mixed families, but also because of citizenship by investment, that it will kind of be almost like a basic level of insurance that people will want if they're worldly people, if they have lived in several countries, if they like to travel, and if they want to preserve their access to different parts of the world. It will become something much more common. And
on the travel side, that's also confirmed as well. There's a lot of YPT clients that hold dual, triple, and it gets real interesting that I've known some people for a long time. They're like, oh, actually, I'll use this passport for this country this time. It's like, oh, okay. So, it's quite common.
And I mean, among people I know personally and in the extreme traveler community, obviously it's much more common than in the general population.
And for listeners interested in learning more, Marko has generously offered Young Pioneer Tours listeners a 50% discount on a consultation. The code is YPTCBI 2026, which gives you half off of a 30-minute consultation with Marko. So we'll mention that again later in this episode. So we were talking about these supranational blocks like the EU and ECOWAS that you were just talking about. So how do these blocks work when you are talking to a client about and planning a citizenship strategy?
Well, it's really about contrast. So if, for example, you are European, getting a citizenship or residency from another continent is generally good because that brings in diversification. It brings in a place and hopefully a block as well, ideally another block that's quite different from what you're exposed to currently. So really about diversification. I wouldn't, for example, suggest to an American to get a Caribbean citizenship because there's no diversification there. If you're looking at it from a diversification perspective, I would say an African citizenship is something much more different. It's out of the sphere of influence of the U.S.
So you would not have advised me to get the St. Kitts and Nevis citizenship?
I think back when you got it at that price, I would have.
Okay.
But of course now it's double the price.
Yeah, it was reported by CNN that I paid a certain amount of money, and the way that they spun it was like American guy spends like $200,000 to go on vacation in North Korea, which is of course not exactly what happened. I'm a travel operator. We're doing business in North Korea. I've gone there multiple times. It wasn't just to like get my jollies to go one time. And also you can do other things. Of course, Russia, visa-free, Belarus, visa-free, But at the time, it's important that at the time that I started the process, it was during COVID. So the price was way down because nobody was traveling at that time. And since they
actually had a sale.
Yes, they had a sale, and I took advantage of that. And I first was looking at St. Lucia, but then on the advice of the agent that I used, who was based in Abu Dhabi, actually.
It wasn't me.
It wasn't you, no.
Yeah.
Or Shaggy when you need him. And they advised St. Kitts and Nevis. But, it's been interesting so far. And nice to have,
Yeah.
And the price boom for St. Kitts and Nevis, was that because of the conflict in Ukraine?
Yes, So thank you. That was my next point. That it basically doubled or almost tripled in price since the breakout of the war in Ukraine.
Yeah.
And the processing time is also extremely long these days.
And it was a long process even when I did it. And that was, before everything. I mean, it still took, and it was a very It was a very long process of like confirming my identity, making sure that I was in fact who I said I was. And you had to criminal background, FBI check, everything from your high school diploma, college diploma, etc.
Yeah. I think back then it made a lot of sense. These days, for Westerners, Europeans, Americans, I suggest these African programs, Sao Tome and Principe and Sierra Leone, because they're very cheap. They're $95,000 for Sao Tome for up to a family of 4.
Yeah, and these weren't really around when I was looking at it. So
no, they didn't exist.
And I think a lot of people aren't familiar with that. So let's just jump in and talk about these African programs and why they are a good alternative to the Caribbean passport schemes, et cetera.
Sure. Yeah, they're much cheaper, of course, and they are also members of blocs that are, I think, very relevant in the global South, not just now, but also going forward. So for people from North America or Europe, it gets you access to something very different that has a lot of growth and potential going ahead. And also it allows you to travel visa-free to a lot of countries that you can't travel to visa-free with a European or North American passport. So it actually opens new doors. And, I, for example, have Finnish and Polish citizenship, but those are basically one and the same. One doesn't open any other doors than the other.
Yeah, right.
So I actually think it would be much more useful. It would be much more useful to have a European and an African, or let's say an American and an African passport, because then you would actually gain some new access.
Well, so what? Let's say you get an email for somebody listening to this podcast, and they email you and they say, I'm an American. I want to be able to go to North Korea. I want to be able to go to these other countries that are doing the reciprocal travel bans because of Trump's list, et cetera. But they just basically have no idea what they're doing. How would you advise them? Because obviously there's descent, there's citizenship by investment. What would you have them look at first?
Sure. So when I start to talk with someone, I always start with their ancestry. Because someone might be eligible for a citizenship by descent, let's say from a European country. That's the most typical situation.
And which countries?
In Europe, Poland, Italy, Germany, these are quite generous in their citizenship by descent policies. Even after Italy made some reforms last year, still quite generous. So often people have ancestry from these countries and they don't even realize they're eligible. Now, that can also go alongside a citizenship by investment, because the process of gaining citizenship by descent can take a very long time to get the archive records and to be able to prove it, and it can take years. I did it with Poland. I got back my Polish citizenship by descent that way. But I always start with someone's ancestry. And also I start with understanding, what it is that they want to achieve. What are their goals in life? Are they looking to actually go live somewhere, or do they just want the ability to travel to, various particular countries around the world? So it's understanding the person's needs and what their goals are, and
or financials as well. Yeah.
Of course. If they're, if they have a particular budget, if they want to make an investment in, let's say, a property in a country anyway, then if you could get a free residency or citizenship perhaps out of that investment that you're going to make anyway, then of course it's good to be aware of that. So I would identify those things.
And so and then you mentioned, just to get it out of the way, and then we'll go back, but I'm weaving a bit, but you mentioned your Polish and your Finnish. What else do you have? Are you able to disclose? For our listeners here,
I see a stack of passports on the table here.
I am also a citizen of Liberland.
Oh, Liberland. Okay.
He is indeed.
There it is.
Let's have a look.
Yes. Which is a self-declared country between Serbia and Croatia. It's a very cool project.
That looks legit enough.
Yeah. I've actually met the president of Liberland recently in Davos.
And how did he become the president of Liberland? Is he self-appointed, or is there some sort of voting process? Because you're a citizen.
Yeah.
You've got this passport.
Yeah. This passport is property of the Free Republic of Liberland.
Yeah.
Is that how it's pronounced?
I'm not sure actually how it's pronounced. I should ask the president. But about 10 years ago, he determined that there's a piece of unclaimed land between Croatia and Serbia. That's the result of a long-standing you could say border dispute, but it's not a hot one. I mean, it's just that they have different legal definitions of how the border should be drawn.
Are you telling me that the fall of Yugoslavia created a mess? Get out of here.
One of the many results of that, yeah. But basically, there was an unclaimed piece of land, very much like you have between Egypt and Sudan, right?
Birds of will.
Yeah. And he organized a group of experts, and they agreed that this is indeed unclaimed, and he established the country.
I love that. I love how it was left out.
Yeah, and it's now 10 plus years on, and no one can dispute the claim.
Now, if someone's considering getting a micronation passport, because we have Liberland, we have Slow Jamistan, right? Can you get Sealand passports these days?
You can't get a Sealand passport. I looked into it. But what's unique about Liberland is, unlike all the others, it has, in a sense, stood the test of time. It's unique. It's different than all the others because nobody actually can dispute the claim that Liberland has.
Yeah. We're going to start looking into passports of Birds of will.
Birds of will. And of course we have Islandia.
Principality of
Islandia.
That's right, yeah.
Which is Garrett's micronation project. We've done a podcast on that. We did a podcast on Birds of will as well, and their experience there.
I should say that the Liberland passport is not useful for travel at the moment. Maybe in the future, with recognition from other nations, it will become useful. But for now, it's a nice project, and I wish them very well, and I hope that it gains recognition.
Cool. Well, the Slow Jamistan we recently had our first trip to Peck, and there was a post on the Slow Jamistan Facebook group that someone got their passport stamped at Peck, using their Slow Jamistan passport. So if you join us and bring your Liberland passport, I think they'd be happy to oblige some. What's it? We call it de facto recognition.
Yeah, you can get away with that. Yeah. And also, shout out to global passports. I know some people have that out there. And
what are your thoughts on that? The world citizen global passport that talking about, and that has
he's going to shake his head.
But that has quite a few documented instances of de facto recognition.
Yeah, this is the World Service Authority passport. I am familiar with it. It is issued by an organization that has been around for a long time now, but all of those examples of it being stamped are really old. They're from like 20 plus years ago. So I think it's safe to say that it's not being actively.
But there are two countries that actually accept it, right?
Not that I know of, not anymore. And people have argued that even those stamps from 20 plus years ago that are documented were basically mistakes.
Yeah. Or maybe something that happened like Pitcairn with Slow Jamistan passport. But
because I'm actually being the when you go to Pitcairn, when you are ahead of time, you've already given them you've already given them your actual passport info.
Yeah.
And it's very easy then on arrival to say, can you also stamp
it's like getting the Machu Picchu tourist stamp exactly.
I mean, it is still a British overseas territory, so it's a little bit more official, but a little bit more.
I found out about that global passport because when the Trump's first administration, when they banned U.S. passport travelers to North Korea in 2017, I did have a guy reach out saying he pretended everything was cool and smooth during the booking process, and he's like, "Hey, here's my passport scan," and it was that global passport, and I was like, that looks pretty legit. And he's like, "Can you push it to the North Koreans?" And, nah.
Well, that was always that was always my plan before I got my St. Kitts passport. Right. Remember, I was always like, "Can we talk to the North? I'll get the global passport, and we'll see if we can use it."
Yeah, but even with your St. Kitts one, once you had it, it is it's a UN recognized country. It's a legit passport, but the North Koreans had to verify, is this a real passport?
Well, not only North Korea, but also China. When we went to Rason earlier last year, and we were crossing by land or by bridge. On the Chinese side, they had to Google. They're using whatever their Chinese version of Google is. What
Baidu.
Baidu, yeah, they had to look it up and verify that it was a real country. And then when you and I were just in Pyongyang in October, when we were at the airport on our way in at immigration, they looked at it and they just kept saying to me, Australia.
Close enough.
I'm going, no, not Australia.
Different oceans. other side of the world.
And finally, the immigration officer looked at the visa and looked at the thing and saw that there was some sort of match. And I guess he just said, all right, well, somebody gave him this visa, so...
Just go. Yeah. Get out of here. Yeah. We're talking about the U.S. travel ban before. Now, this is why... One of the reasons why we brought Marko onto the show today is because, we do take a lot of U.S. clients. They're a majority of what YPT handle. And yes, the list is growing and about where Americans cannot travel to now, like outright ban. And this is a big deal because a lot of our clients that we handle, whether they're curious to travel or not, but I do know a good, I'd say 40 to 50 from the top of my head. And that's quite a lot of people who want to travel to every country in the world, all 193. And now they can't. This list is growing.
It's unfortunate, but the world is becoming more polarized for a variety of different reasons. You've got this Cold War 2.0 scenario that's sort of taking hold, and then again you have Trump with his reciprocal bans that are happening. So let's go back to these Americans and using them as an example, and when they would contact you. So you'd first look into a heritage passport, right? Mm-hmm. And if that's not possible, what's your next?
Well, I would say not only if it's not possible, but also just in addition to it, because the citizenship by descent procedures can take years. So someone, might want to additionally get a citizenship by investment, especially if it's from a totally different part of the world, like from Africa. But yeah, like you were saying, we're living in an age of blocks now, very much like during the Cold War time. And I think that's going to be the time that we experience the rest of our lives. That in this age of blocks, it's going to become increasingly important to have access to different blocks. And so far, after Trump banned nationals from 75 countries from getting visas to the U.S., we've seen Chad, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, and of course a few countries that have been
Gabon
talking about it. Yeah.
Chad were the first to jump on it. They said, hey, tit for tat. Yeah, more Americans. We had a group tour lined up a couple of months away from happening, and it sucked for us. It sucked for them. The majority of them were Americans. We had to tell them, hey, listen, you can't go anymore. That's it.
And I think there's going to be many more from that list of 75 that are going to do reciprocal bans.
That makes sense.
So if you're only an American citizen and you want to visit the 193 or 197, then yeah, for sure you need to have another passport because you just can't do it. Like these countries that have banned Americans, it's not that they've banned visa-free entry. They've banned completely.
It's a blanket. It's totally, there's no way.
You can't apply for a visa.
There's no can you try to apply, see what they think? Mm-hmm. No, it's they will not accept it.
So you just get another citizenship, and now you can visit.
Well, how many countries do you see going down the road of Venezuela, where they would not accept dual national Americans? At least if the passport said that the person had been born in the U.S., they would look at it and say, well, this person was born in the U.S., they shouldn't have this passport. How many countries do you see going down that road?
I don't see many doing that because I think they're doing the reciprocal bans as a political measure, not because they don't want tourism dollars. I think they would be happy to have somebody whose place of birth. Also, I should add that the U.S. practices jus soli, which is this legal concept you have in the Americas, where you become a citizen simply for being born in the country. In the rest of the world, this principle doesn't really exist, except in exceptional cases like statelessness, but generally doesn't exist. So this idea that, you were born in the U.S., you must be a citizen, yes, that is generally the case, but it's not always the case. So for example, if you're born in the U.S. To diplomatic parents, you are not a citizen by birth. So there are plenty of situations where you could have been born in the U.S. and you're not a citizen, and you would, you could simply say that, well, I was born there, but I was not and am not a citizen. They couldn't ask you for a proof of renunciation. So even if that would happen, if a country would say, even having a U.S. place of birth disqualifies you because you must be a citizen, you could argue that, well, I'm not a citizen. I was born to diplomats, for example. But no, I don't think the countries will do that. So far, we haven't seen that except for this Venezuela example.
Okay, so in that sense. And for travelers that are looking to visit 193, and with the amount of countries that they have access to shrinking, with a U.S. passport, so if they can't get a a heritage passport. The next step would be a CBI program. And what would you advise them right out of the gate? I mean, because now we've established that if you don't think a scenario like we're talking about with Venezuela is likely, and that means that a CBI passport is a sound investment. So
CBI meaning
citizenship by investment. Yes, citizenship by investment.
Yeah, cool.
So what's your next piece of advice? What's the next step?
So the citizenship that I generally advise to Westerners, Americans in particular, is Sao Tome and Principe, because it's the cheapest. You can get it for the whole family, up to 4 people, for the same price. So it's $95,000 regardless of if you're 1 or 4. And
it's a good family McValue deal.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
And it's totally different, and it allows you even to live in Brazil and Portugal if you'd like to.
Well, you've been pretty involved with these, because these are new programs, because I don't even really, just a couple of years ago when I was doing mine, I don't remember these being around, or if they were, they weren't talked about as much. Nope. So can you tell me just a little bit more about your experience of sort of leading the charge on these?
Sure.
Yeah.
They launched last summer, both of those programs in Africa, and I've been involved from the very beginning. They are fully legislated programs, so there's provisions in the law of both countries to facilitate this special naturalization. And I also have met the founder of the program in Sierra Leone. They're programs that I know well, that I've been involved with from the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, but tell us a little bit more though, because I mean, again, we're having now more countries that are offering CBI programs. What kind of political factors would go into a country, countries like Sao Tome and Principe or Sierra Leone? What would go into them, deciding, okay, yeah, we are going to do this? Because there are risks for a country. Like my understanding is, like Vanuatu, for instance. Devalued its passport because of
the influx.
Yes, because of the influx.
What happened in Vanuatu is they didn't have strict due diligence, so they were not doing the proper checks on people, and they weren't requiring, the proper criminal record extracts and so on, and they actually granted citizenship to a few people that were criminals and shouldn't have been eligible.
Sanctioned individuals. Such.
Something similar happened in Tonga as well. Yeah.
Well, that doesn't spread. There's a reason why Tonga's on Trump's list.
Yeah, well, yeah.
that was
all coming together.
Yeah, that was, I think, in the 90s, and that was quite different. Yeah.
Okay.
But these newer programs like Sao Tome and Sierra Leone, they've really learned from the mistakes of other countries, including the Caribbean, including Vanuatu, and they have very stringent due diligence, because they understand that if you grant citizenship to the wrong person, you devalue your citizenship.
Or you get kicked out of blocks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you know of any specific examples or cases offhand?
Of that happening around the world?
Or a country not doing their due diligence and giving somebody undesirable.
Yeah, Vanuatu is the classic case of that. And that's just been in the last few years.
And so, what kind of people? Terrorists or?
I don't think terrorists. I haven't.
Gangsters.
I haven't read.
Because I know Nauru. I think Nauru got in trouble at one point, but that was like the Taliban using their banking system or something.
So Nauru had a if you can call it a program. I don't know if you can call it a program, but they had a program many years ago in the late 90s, early 2000s. Then they stopped, and now, as of just a couple of years ago, they have a new program, but this is a much more proper legislated and properly structured program, and they are doing due diligence on every applicant. So Nauru's program today is nothing like the Nauru program from years ago. Personally, I would not recommend the Nauru program, because Nauru is not a member of any bloc. The only place you can live as a Nauruan citizen is Nauru.
Okay, so when you're not a part of a bloc, so that can come as a benefit to some who are looking for a cheaper passport, am I right? Mm-hmm. So Nauru...
It's worth less when it's not a part of a bloc, for sure.
Right, yeah.
I would argue.
So what would you say is the cheapest nationality to purchase?
So the cheapest in the world currently is Pakistan. It is $18,000. The legislation is in place. I don't know of anyone that's ever applied, but it's something I'm looking into. to understand, is it actually possible for someone to
and then before all of our American friends get excited, my understanding is it's only for Commonwealth nationals, right?
That's correct.
So I can get
qualify.
it. Yes, I can get it.
I can get it.
Yep. All of YPT management can get it.
That's right.
Which is something to think about.
Be something for us to think about, Justin.
Maybe we'll come back to that. Maybe we'll do another episode.
Off the record episode. Welcome.
But okay, so Pakistan's currently the cheapest, but the caveats being you have to be a Commonwealth national, and also we don't necessarily know of anyone actually getting one yet.
Correct. Yeah. The law is there. It's theoretically possible, but
and not a great passport. Global ranking wise, I think it's definitely in the hundreds. I think it's in the top 10 of the least.
Top, like bottom 10.
But top 10 of the least. Yeah. Bottom 10 of the best.
It's certainly different though.
Yeah. Hey, it's an option there, and it's a key. It's a cheap key.
Yeah.
If it proves to work well, we'll get back to you on that one, Marko. But if it proves to work well, that's a cheap key for a lot of Americans to start hitting their 193.
Well, again, American would need.
Oh, sorry. You're right. I jumped over that. Well, it's a cheap key for anyone wanting to do.
It's a burner passport.
Yeah, it's definitely a burner passport. Yeah.
Well, okay. So we were talking about. So there's we're calling sort of like I think people generally call a lot of the. Citizenship programs where you're paying money, CBI. But how many of them are actually an investment? Like, for instance, they called my St. Kitts and Nevis one CBI, but in actuality, it was a donation. I think they explained to me the money was going to build a new prison in St. Kitts and Nevis. And it's not anything that I could ever, an investment that I'll ever get any money on.
Hopefully you never visit it either.
I have to go to my own prison.
I built this. It was me.
This is my house. But no, I can't ever get any money back or any ROI or anything. So what's the difference there?
Yeah, so generally what countries offer is they either offer a very cheap donation option or a more expensive investment option. And the cheapest countries don't offer an investment option. It's just a donation. So with Sao Tome, for example, it's 95,000, but that's donated. Or technically it's 90,000 donation to their electricity grid fund and 5,000 submission fee. But there are countries like Turkey, for example, that you can purely take an investment route. So if you buy property in Turkey, that's, as I recall, around $500,000 US dollars, you can get citizenship by investment, and you can sell that property after a certain holding period, 5 years, as I recall. So there are countries that allow for a purely investment-based route, but the cheaper ones are donations. And I do make that distinction, for example, on my website. But a lot of people talk about CBI, as you're saying, and they don't make the distinction between the donation or the investment options.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so just to recap, and we're going over our options here. So for heritage passports, Ireland, Italy.
Poland, Germany.
Okay.
Those are really, really flexible ones.
So if somebody hit you up and, you would first look at those, and if they have any of, those ancestry there, and they can do, okay. And then the next option would be a CBI or donation option, and you would probably advise looking at the West Africa options.
Yeah, I would. Yep. Because they're the cheapest, and they're members of blocks that are really relevant.
And then if someone said to you, no, I don't want to do it. I can't get heritage. I don't need the passport right away. I have time. I want to do this legitimately. I want to go live somewhere. But if I'm going to do it, I want to be able to be eligible for citizenship and get a passport. What would you advise there?
So it depends on if the person cares about becoming a tax resident of a place. That's a major factor, because there are residencies where it's very easy to become a resident, but you become a tax resident on your worldwide income. So for some people, that's a major factor. Where we are now, the Philippines has an option where you become a resident, but the Philippines has territorial taxation for non-citizens. So if you live in the Philippines, on any kind of visa, there are a few options. You're not taxable on your foreign income forever, territorial taxation. So that's very appealing. Panama also has this. Paraguay also has this. So those tax considerations are important for some people. Other people, they don't care, and they just want to live somewhere where they like to, be, and they don't care about the tax consequences. Then that, opens a few other options up.
Okay.
It's good to know about the Philippines.
And Philippines, of course, but you can't get a passport, though. You can have permanent residency here, but you can't get a Philippines passport.
I think you can. You can actually naturalize.
Yeah, you can, but you have to give up your home passport.
Okay.
Yeah. It's one of the few countries in Asia that actually naturalizes people. The other that I can think of is Taiwan. But in Asia, you always need to renounce your other.
And Cambodia as well?
Cambodia has citizenship by investment, so you can just become Cambodian and not have to renounce others, but it's about a $250,000 donation.
How many countries allow dual citizenship versus countries that force you to renounce a previous citizenship?
So there's a big misconception. First of all, this term that we often hear, dual citizenship, it's a bit of a misnomer. So there's no country in the world that's regulating how many citizenships you can have if they allow multiple. So really, we should be talking about multiple citizenship. So it's about 75% of the world's countries that allow multiple citizenship, and that means you can have 10 if you want, as long as all the countries allow multiple.
Gotta catch 'em all.
Yeah. There's then the rest, 25% or so of the world, mostly in Asia, that don't allow multiple. And among those, there are big differences in enforcement. So, for example, Singapore famously very strictly enforces their ban on multiple citizenship, whereas China doesn't at all. I mean, loads of Chinese citizens have other citizenships.
Yeah, but Singapore's a win. That's quite a powerful, if not the current powerful now.
It's always right at the top.
It's like them in Japan.
Yeah. So if you had to just have one and you didn't care about right of residency, obviously Singapore only lets you live in Singapore.
My wife's cousin recently got a Singapore passport, but he did do 2 or 3 years in the military. Yeah, which I think is required for a man. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But that's what he did.
I would personally always prefer a passport that lets me live in several countries. So I would rather be an EU citizen or let's say Australian, because at least you can go live in New Zealand if you want. It has a few different options.
Nice.
Yeah, if I had to just have one. Of course, the best is to have several.
Yeah.
And again, for listeners interested in exploring their options, the consultation code is YPT-CBI 2026, and it gives you 50% off a consultation with our friend Marko here. So this is something I would personally recommend, Rowan. I think you would too, if you're serious about global travel and long-term planning. So
you never know. Marko has all the answers for you.
He does. I mean, we should. I'm trying to.
This guy is brilliant.
I'm trying to think of should we just do like a lightning round? What's the most expensive passport that you could buy?
El Salvador, $1 million.
$1 million and
$1 million.
$1 million. And what's the turnaround time on that?
I'm not sure because there aren't any documented cases of anyone applying.
Okay,
that's $1 million.
And what's the quickest one that you can get? If you say I'm
in a rush.
I'm in a rush.
I want another one.
I got to go run in the Pyongyang Marathon. I'm American. I'm accepted. I got in, but I need a passport right away.
It's actually Sao Tome and Sierra Leone. It's 1 to 3 months.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah. 1 to 3 months after submitting all of the documents.
Your paperwork.
Yeah. What should people be prepared to, in addition to shelling out the cash, what should they be prepared to get together for that?
So for any program, the paperwork is really the same. It's proof of funds, proof of no criminal record, the usual vital records, birth certificate, things like this. So it really depends on how long it takes you to get those documents from your relevant countries. So for example, if you're American, getting as I'm sure you know well, getting the FBI report and getting the apostille on it can be quite a headache.
I tried to fingerprint myself. It didn't.
Gig.
Yeah. Well, I did it and sent it in, but the FBI rejected it, so I had to go to a proper place.
It's quite an archaic system compared to most other countries with having to fingerprint yourself.
Never thought I'd hear that ever in my life, to fingerprint myself.
Yeah.
Okay, so we did what? Most expensive, quickest, and what is the most powerful?
That you can get by investment?
Yeah, you can get by investment.
So there's
or donation.
So there's one category that I didn't mention because it's I think it's not really relevant to many people, and that's by exception. So there is a concept of citizenship by exception. There are a few countries, even in Europe, that grant citizenship by exception, like Austria has famously done that for decades. But this requires an investment of millions of euros into the local economy, and then they will grant you citizenship by exception. And of course, it's completely up to them. It's subjective. There aren't any listed requirements. It's just that you've made a substantial contribution to the economy. But if we're looking at purely what's the power of the passport, then it would probably be one of those European citizenships by exception. But realistically, for us normal people, what can we get that's the most powerful?
Normal people.
Yeah.
I'm definitely normal.
Yeah.
My mom tells me.
Trying to think. In terms of visa-free travel, I would say it's a citizenship that you can get by descent, and it's Israel, because it's very easy. If you have a Jewish grandparent, you already qualify, as long as you don't have a criminal record, etc., the usual requirements. And that's the number 18 passport in the world. So if you can call it citizenship by descent, I mean, it's quite generous and quite fast compared to, let's say, citizenship by descent in Ireland or Poland or Germany, etc.
So with a criminal report, I'm Australian, just to clarify, I'm not a criminal. We were.
You were at one time.
We were. Well, once upon a time ago in a galaxy far, far away. But is it like a severe crime? Is it like petty crime? Like what actually shows up in these criminal reports?
Right. What are they looking for? That's an interesting question.
You robbed milk from the local supermarket? No. Like you can't, or is it like... Yeah.
So most countries in the world, when they consider you for naturalization, be it by investment or by time spent in the country, traditional naturalization, they will look at the nature of the crime. It's not just that you have committed a crime. They will also consider what it was that you did, and someone will actually, judge that and determine if
so killing someone is that frowned upon?
I would say that's frowned upon.
Okay, all right. Yeah.
Probably would be
so for all our listeners, refrain, love thy neighbor, if you're looking at getting another passport. But I want to throw this out there as well. This one kind of pisses me off as well. It's the countries where you reside in for as long as you want, and they'll never give you a passport. And that's what comes to my head is where I'm based at the moment, Abu Dhabi, UAE, the GCC. You can be like, my wife has been there for 14 years. They will never give you a passport.
Well, there's people that have lived there for generations.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Like one of her best friends is she's from Somalia, and her parents from Somalia, and her grandparents from Somalia, and they've all been born in the UAE. But there's just no way, Jose.
That's part of the kind of global strategy that I advise people on. So I always feel sorry when I speak to someone who, they ended up living in, let's say, Austria, which is one of only 2 countries in Europe that requires you to renounce your other citizenships if you want to become a citizen. So
Austria, yeah?
Austria.
And that's also the Netherlands, they require that?
Yep.
Switzerland's just hard.
The Netherlands at least has an exception that if you're married to a citizen, you don't need to renounce your other citizenships. But Austria has no exceptions.
Really?
If you're naturalizing in Austria. That's I mean, imagine if if only that person, maybe they had the option to move to another country in Europe when they chose Austria, right? Maybe they would have chosen another country if only they had known that.
You did not choose wisely.
Yeah, exactly. So just understanding those kinds of options when you're, planning to go somewhere is very useful, I think.
Yeah. All right. I'm sure you can help with that as well.
We've heard stories of periods of time where, there were periods of unrest in Africa or even in the 90s in the Balkans. And during those times, you could go in and, with a few $1,000s, buy a passport. And now this is, of course, I'm not asking you for official advice because I know this is not what you would advise anybody. But is there anywhere in the world where that is still possible as far as you know, or is that completely out?
I think we've really moved beyond that. It might be possible in some very unstable countries, but I would say it wouldn't be a useful passport to have in this day and age, even if somebody would acquire a passport illegitimately like that. So I certainly wouldn't suggest that anyone does that.
There was a time when tourists could go to Somalia.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. One of the examples I'm thinking.
And you could go to the market or the black market. And you could acquire some. It was handwritten at the time, but it was a legit passport. Like it looked legit. It was the exact passport they gave out, but it wasn't legit. It wasn't on their system. It was like a souvenir to take home. But people did acquire this. It was done, and I know 2 people who did this, and this is a long time ago. So everyone thinks that you just missed out. No, it's been for a while. But I don't know if they actually traveled on it. I don't think they attempted that ever. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard about this happening, and specifically the Somali case. I remember
Still get asked it. People are like, can you do it? Like, nah, it's long gone.
I think that so. There's a video on YouTube. I think it's a BBC reporter in Somalia actually doing it himself.
It's like Panorama or something.
Going to a little shack somewhere and getting a passport made for himself. But yeah, I mean, probably that happens in some corners of the world still. But yeah, it wouldn't be a useful document for anything other than the souvenir. So I wouldn't recommend it.
And another one. This is a big misconception. It's people who still believe that once you marry someone, you automatically get their passport. That person's national. And I hear that a lot, especially here in the Philippines. They think that's a thing.
That does exist in a few countries, but it's very few. So, for example, Cape Verde. If you marry a citizen of Cape Verde anywhere on Earth, you could just show up to the embassy the next day and apply for citizenship.
Straight away?
Yep, straight away.
Wow.
Yeah. So there are a few countries like this, but it's very few.
Yeah. No.
What are your thoughts on the Trump gold card? Do we know of anybody that's gotten the gold card? Or if it's a working program yet?
What was that about again?
Well, we had the green card, and now Trump's introduced the gold card, which I think is $1 million. Oh, no, it's $5 million.
There's 2. Right? There's the gold card, and now there's the platinum card.
Oh.
Platinum card is the $5 million.
It's like Amex.
Amex, yeah.
Amex. So this is Trump's idea of residency by investment for the USA. The problem is that there's no legislation backing it up. It's just Trump talking about it and making a nice, pretty website about it. So the gold card, I think, has zero value because there's already a residency by investment program in the U.S.
He just gave it a color.
He gave it a color, exactly. The platinum card is interesting, though, even though it's not backed by any legislation. But in theory, it's interesting because Trump says that it would allow you to live up to 270 days per year in the U.S. without being taxable, which would actually be quite appealing to some small niche of people. But there's nothing in the U.S. Internal Revenue Code that makes that possible. So...
And what's the price of the proposed price of the platinum card?
$5 million.
Oh, it's also $5 million.
Yeah, it's $5 million. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's
Has anybody hit you up about these, like for advice?
No, I actually mainly speak to people that are interested in renouncing their American citizenship. So any discussion I have regarding American citizenship, it's usually about that and not going to live in America. There's already plenty of...
And it's mostly because of the tax, right? To renounce the U.S. national
and compliance.
And compliance.
Yeah, so like I mentioned before about banks.
That's a real thing. Like, I've lived in a few countries, and I've opened up local accounts in those countries, and yeah, I'm hit with that question. And when they say, like, are you a U.S. citizen? When I say, no, I'm not, the look on their face, like a sigh of relief, like, okay, great, let's continue. So that is a real thing. I can confirm that's legit.
Most people who renounce don't renounce because of taxes. They renounce because of the compliance.
The compliance, yeah.
Being ineligible for various accounts, the costs of filing every year, especially if you're an entrepreneur, etc.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. And do you know who coined the term golden visa, just to go back a bit? Like, where did that come from?
I'm not sure. That's quite a colloquial term. Like, none of these programs officially use the term golden visa. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just something that people talk about.
Yeah. I've heard it around in various countries. Yeah. Like, the golden visa. Like, okay, cool. All right.
And has this always been your background? Like, when did you...
So I got into this because for years I was the guy that all of my friends around the world would come to for advice on immigration matters. So I helped several friends of mine to obtain citizenships by descent in various countries in Europe. And I also helped people to understand, their global situation, to apply for residence permits in various countries, and to actually move to those countries. So it was through that I said, I really like this, and I like to help people to achieve these mobility solutions. And having lived around the world myself, I've also experienced and overcome those challenges for myself. So that's how I got into it. But before that, I was an investor. I was a real estate developer, that's what I was doing for many years.
Another form of investment. At what point did you start to get interested in visas, passports, and looking, because honestly it's something I never even really thought about too much until 2017, and we had the North Korea travel ban, and because it was something I never even really had to think about as a U.S. passport holder. Mm-hmm. But at what point was your interest peaked?
Probably around 10 years ago, I started to keep track of how different countries, how different governments shape their policy around immigration, and how some countries are welcoming people, are encouraging people to move there, and other countries are making it very difficult. So I began to see how different countries have very different perspectives and attitudes and policies to go with them. So then I started to follow all of that, and I find it really interesting to see how the nationality and the residency laws are shaping how different countries develop. And you've seen that change over time as well. So for example, about 10 years ago, Panama introduced a program where they would just give you PR immediately in exchange for putting $5,000 in the bank account. Well, today, to become a Panamanian PR immediately requires a $300,000 investment in property in Panama.
That's quite changed.
Yeah. So these policies also evolve over time. They very rarely get easier. They generally get more difficult. But of course, there's always new countries coming along that are waking up to the potential and introducing new programs.
And as long as I've known you, Marko, you've been on it like a hawk. So he really is the man, ladies and gentlemen. And again,
if anyone listening wants to speak directly with Marko, you can use the code YPTCBI2026 for 50% off of a consultation. So looking forward, how do you see global citizenship evolving in the next 10 to 20 years? Because we've already established that you think the world being divided into these blocks is we're going to keep going in that direction. And where are we headed?
Yeah, I think we're going to see increasingly commodified citizenship and residency as well. I think people will just continue to become increasingly mobile, and people will vote with their feet, and they will go to countries that treat them well and offer the things that they're looking for. They're not simply going to settle for the place they were born. They will really actively choose where it is they want to live, where they want to spend their time, and where it is they want to travel in the world. And the increasing access to options is a good thing for people, but it's also a good thing for countries because it allows countries to compete for the best residents, right? So this increasing competition, I think, is what we're going to see, and I think it's very positive all around for countries and for citizens.
Okay, what countries do you think will be the next? So right now you're working a lot with Sao Tome and Principe and Sierra Leone. What's next?
I'm really a big believer in the global south. When you look at the numbers, when you look at the growth in the economies and in the populations of countries in the global south, and you look at the declining populations and economies in many countries in the global north, particularly in Europe, this really tells me that the potential in the global south in the next decades is huge. And that's why I really think that this is a place to have a foot, in the door. So
jump on it whilst it's a great deal. Otherwise, it could be like a St. Kitts sort of situation where you miss out.
Yep.
So,
And is there anything that we haven't touched upon? Something that we should have asked that we didn't ask?
Not that I can think of.
We haven't touched each other.
That's after we. All right. Well, you know what? I just wanted to, as a final segment here, you've traveled with YPT many times. So what are some of your favorite destinations?
Oh, so many places I went with YPT. Well, my last tour was Bangladesh, Bhutan, and Nepal, which was excellent. All new countries for me. Yeah, I've been so many interesting places: Eritrea, South Sudan, Angola, South Tome, which of course now is very relevant to what I'm doing. Yeah.
And do you always use your Finnish passport? Is there been a scenario where you've used your Polish passport?
I actually only use the Polish, except when I visit the Five Eyes countries, I use the Finnish. Five Eyes being US,
UK,
Canada,
Australia,
New Zealand.
New Zealand's part of that?
Yeah.
It's a tiny eye.
Yeah. So, these five countries...
4.5 eyes.
Yeah.
What does that stand for?
They share military intelligence.
They're just the five most annoying...
AUKUS?
The five assholes, basically.
Yeah, the five most annoying countries when it comes to immigration matters. So the thing is, these five countries, they really just don't like to see that you've been anywhere. They don't like to see that you've traveled,
That's an interesting point, because, with the US ESTA, how they punish those for traveling to certain countries, I wonder if other countries will start doing that too.
So actually, we don't know for sure, but it's very likely that the EU will start doing that when they introduce ETIAS at the end of this year. Well, we'll see. That's what they've said.
It's yes.
Yeah. So ETIAS is basically the ESTA, the electronic travel authorization system for the EU.
Oh, it's going to suck.
Yeah. And I think we can expect them to be asking similar questions. For
sure. Yeah. And for those who are a part of the ESTA waiver program for the US, this is from the top of my head. I'm pretty sure I'm going to nail it because I've just been doing this job for too long. But if you have traveled to, let's go, it's Syria, Iran, Afghanistan, Sudan, Somalia, Libya, North Korea, Cuba, Venezuela, Iraq, Yemen. Yeah, if you have, I think that's it.
I think it's the 11.
That's the 11, yeah. If you have traveled to those countries, you're no longer valid for an ESTA.
That was almost correct. I don't believe Venezuela is on that list.
Oh, yeah?
But yeah, I think...
Anymore? Probably not anymore.
I don't think it ever was. There's actually a few countries that you'd expect them to be on that list, like Afghanistan, and they've never been on it.
I wrote a blog about it.
Yeah.
We share it in the
But indeed,
page.
if you've been to one of those countries, you're no longer eligible for ESTA, regardless of what passport you
and that's going to grow. I'm sure that's going to get to a point, the Five Eyes will start doing it.
Well, we're just going to see more and more
the 12 hands, the 15 feet, the 57 ears.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is part of this whole block mentality that different blocks are getting more and more defensive about who they want to let in. And so that's we need
you
to
travel to here on a holiday? No.
Yeah,
we punish you.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, actually, let's talk about some of that. So we know we've just gone over the countries that the U.S. is going to not like, if in terms of if you have an ESTA or even if you don't have an ESTA, if they look at your social media and they see that you've been to these places or anything like that.
It's really far beyond the ESTA. Even if I'm eligible to visit the U.S. on an ESTA, and I do, but if I would visit the U.S. on a passport full of stamps. I actually visited the U.S. I used to not be really strict about using one passport for the rest of the world and the other for Five Eyes. And I visited the U.S. after I had been to South Sudan. And they sent me to secondary inspection because they didn't believe that South Sudan was a country.
Amazing.
They thought it was Sudan, and of course, Sudan being on the ESTA ban list.
Right.
And I had to explain to them as politely as possible that it's a country and you actually have an embassy there. So maybe call them.
And it's not yet on the list. I'm sure we've been there.
Yeah, I hope not.
I hope not either. But
But what are some particularities of some other major countries? China, Russia, India. The UK, what kind of things would set off their immigration if you're applying for a visa or you're trying to enter the country?
So currently the US is the only country in the world that has a ban list like this, that you're ineligible to visit visa-free if you visited X countries. Other countries in the Five Eyes, like Australia, they will give you a hard time, but there isn't an official list. They'll just, maybe give you more scrutiny when you visit. Although these days a lot of people just can qualify to use the electronic scanner in Australia, so that situation doesn't even arise there anymore, typically. But if, let's say, there were a manual passport control, it could come up. But no, the U.S. is unique in that.
They certainly are.
Yeah, but like I said, I think the EU, when they introduce this ETIAS system, they could also have questions.
Is there a date on that yet, or is it something that they're fumbling over?
I don't remember the exact date, but it's been delayed for so many years that I wouldn't be surprised if it gets delayed again.
Is it the one that's going to cost a couple of euros as well?
Yeah.
You can't just rock up. It's kind of like what the UK have done recently. You have to,
Yeah, exactly. But it's the cost is minimal. I think it's going to be like 14 euros.
Well, you know what? I went to the UK recently, and apparently it was meant to be like 12 quid, 14 quid or something. Mm-hmm. It was like 36 quid for me as an Australian to go there.
Wow.
Like, how did that get to that kind of fee?
The UK introduced their ETA a few years ago, but they do not ask about where you've been.
No, they don't. Yeah. Not yet.
Not yet. But that's the thing. Once a country has, or a block of countries has a system like that in place, it's very easy to put in additional questions, as, for example...
So basically, listeners, come with us to all these lovely countries and make the regrets later.
The sooner, the better.
And if you want to look into dual citizenship or multiple citizenships and you want to speak with Marko, you can use the code YPTCBI 2026 for 50% off on a consultation about your options. Is it heritage? Is it a donation? Is it an investment? And I guess my last question, unless Rowan has anything, is what's the strangest request or inquiry you've ever received? Like, has anyone ever said, I'd really like a North Korean passport. Can I invest in the DPRK and get a North Korean passport?
Well, I did get an inquiry recently about someone interested in Pakistan. Which is interesting.
You mean us?
Yeah. Excluding. Okay.
Excluding.
Oh, we're going to chase that rabbit hole. We're going down, baby.
But really, that's it? You don't never get any, kind of weird, didn't have to say to people, actually, that's not a thing?
No, not really. No. Because I mainly work with Westerners, so...
We can make Pakistan a thing as well. I mean, it's the ultra budget.
Yeah.
Version. Let's make we can make this like hotcakes.
Well, we did
start a trend, Justin.
Yeah,
let's jump on.
Yeah. We were trendsetters with ultra budget tours. We can do ultra budget passports.
Yeah. Why not?
All right. Well, thank you very much, Marko. I appreciate you being here and joining us in Sin City in Manila.
Yeah, get the hell out of the studio and take your multiple passports with you. I'm so jealous.
Thank you.
And actually, one last question. So, of the sort of novelty passports or micronation passports, which do you think might actually, be legitimate in some sense in the next 10 to 20 years?
So, Liberland shows a lot of promise because they actually managed to get Colombia to recognize their diplomatic passport. So, you have to understand, recognition of a travel document is a separate concept than recognition of a sovereign state. Right, so Colombia has recognized the Liberland diplomatic passport as a valid travel document, which is a pretty major step as a UN member country accepting your document.
That's crazy.
Oh, as an expert, what are your thoughts on Israel recognizing Somaliland and how that might affect things moving forward for lenders?
I think it's very exciting. So Somaliland also recognizes Liberland. Liberland recognizes Somaliland, and now as Somaliland gains the legitimacy that I think it's deserved for a long time.
It's a great place.
Yeah, as everyone, I think, listening knows, Somaliland is much more state-like than Somalia. Yeah. I think it's quite exciting for Liberland, for Somaliland, both. I hope that Somaliland becomes more convenient to visit and develops. And
there's a couple of setbacks already. So Air Djibouti has cancelled all their flights to Hargeisa. So that's one direct flight removed, which is a bit of a bummer. But what's happened now is Somalia has enforced all airlines, because the airlines that are flying to Somaliland, they all recognize Somalia as legitimate sovereignty over Somaliland. So now airlines are required to see a Somalia e-visa, which is a new scheme. So there's no longer visa on arrival for Somalia, it's now e-visa. So you need a Somalia e-visa to board your flight to go to Hargeisa to then get your visa on arrival for Hargeisa. So it's a double visa thing now. It's not the end of the world. Both are about $60. But it's since the recognition of Israel. So I'm sure, and it's going to build up tensions in the Horn of Africa, which is unfortunate because, even Eritrea is copping some crap at the moment because they've effectively cut off with Ethiopian Airlines no longer flying to Asmara, the capital of Eritrea. So I don't know. I think I hope situations improve. I hope everything well to Somaliland as well. We've got a lot of good friends there, Justin and I. And it's a great place. It's well worth checking out, even if you have to pay double for a visa.
And don't worry, when you come with us, we are happy to advise you on all these ins and outs in the situation as it continues to evolve and change when it comes to not only Somaliland, but over 100 different locales and destinations your mother wishes you stayed away from. Actually, one more question for our expert here.
5 minutes.
Yeah,
5 minutes.
The mutual recognition between unrecognized like breakaway republics, like between Transnistria and South Ossetia or Abkhazia. I've seen like being in Tiraspol and seeing the embassies for South Ossetia and Abkhazia. Do those have any actual real world implications, or is it just like solidarity, camaraderie as unrecognized countries?
Yeah, I would say it's solidarity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nothing really beyond that.
I don't think there's many South Ossetians traveling to Tiraspol.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, because this is the podcast that never ends, I have one more thing to say. In Transnistria, those who are born in Transnistria, they are eligible to get a passport for Moldova, which is the breakaway nation of Moldova, Ukraine, Russia, and depending on the family, Romania. So I know 2 Transnistrians that come to my head that actually have 4 passports just because they've been born in an unrecognized state. So there are those kind of benefits, which is pretty cool.
And those are the options for them. And if you want to know the options for you, you can speak with Marko directly and use the code YPTCBI2026 for 50% off a consultation. Marko, thank you for being here. Rowan, thank you for joining us again. And I'm Justin Martell, and this has been another episode of the Young Pioneer Podcast.